Hi everyone. We've had a lot of people ask us what the best way is to teach others how to use Metaverse. In this video, I'll be going over how I teach other people how to use Metaverse and the various components of the Metaverse Studio and the Metaverse app. Now, on the left-hand side of the screen is what we call the Metaverse Studio. The Studio is a website, just studio.gometa.io, where you build experiences. So you build experiences on the web, and then you view them in the Metaverse app, which is on the right-hand side of the screen. Now to do this, I have my phone plugged into the computer. You'd have to open up the Metaverse app on an Android phone, iPad, iPhone, or a Chromebook. Now I'll scroll through this, and you can see that the Metaverse app is organized by various categories, and each of these characters is what we call a single experience. So if I were to tap on this one right here, Jamestown Basic Quiz, I'd be taken to that experience, and if I press play, it would launch that AR experience on my phone. We won't do that right now. We're going to go back to building a Metaverse experience. Now if I expand the studio on the left-hand side, to create a new experience, all we have to do is click Create Experience, and it'll take us to what we call the Metaverse storyboard. The first thing I'm going to do is give my experience a title, so I'll title this one Demo. Now, the Metaverse storyboard is made up of various components. Scenes, which are these rectangles, and blocks. Scenes are things that a user would see on the screen. So for instance, they'd see dialogue, they'd perhaps see a character, and then they'd have various ways to interact with that character. Blocks execute functionality or code between scenes. So for instance, if I click on this block, you can see on the right-hand side I can give it a description. I can add a physical location if I wanted to, much like a Pokemon. So I could say you have to be at a particular location in order to interact with this experience. We won't mess with any of that right now. The first thing we're going to do is add some dialogue. So I'll say, hey, and I'm going to do a little trick here, and I'll tell you what that is in a second. $ username, curly brackets. What that'll do is it'll replace that phrase, the $ curly brackets username, with the username of the person viewing this experience. And we'll say, isn't this cool? And let me get rid of this real fast. Next, we're going to be selecting a character. So to add a character, all I have to do is click where it says Select Character. And I can choose from thousands of characters that have been uploaded to Metaverse by our users. I can browse various categories, so I could go into cartoon, to fantasy, to funny if I wanted to, and each of these categories has numerous characters. Now I can choose these 2D images like Justin Bieber, or I can find 3D objects. One of the 3D objects libraries that we have is called Google Poly. So these are Google 3D assets from Google Poly. Now if I wanted to, I could choose this X-Wing fighter and click to use it, and I would place it into my experience. Now if I wanted to change this character, I could click it again and select a new character, or if I wanted to upload my own character, I could go to Add New Character, give it a name, specify if it's a 2D image, 3D object, and all I'd have to do is click to upload. Now, a lot of teachers tend to take photos of themselves or photos of their students to place them into AR experiences. Now, if I am doing that, I can say that I do not want the community to use this particular asset. Now, if this toggle is on, I'm allowing the community to use my image, and if this toggle is off, I'm saying that I want my character to be private. So if it's my face, I would turn it off and then click Create and Use to upload that image. So we have our text, we have a character picked out. Next, let's add an action. So I'll just click to add an action. An action is essentially a user response to the statement above. So I could have one button, I could have multiple buttons to form a multiple choice question, and I can have various kinds of actions that I'll teach you about a little later. Now on the right hand side of this action, we see this warning sign, this red hazard sign. What this means is that when a user taps this button, nothing will happen. It's not configured properly just yet. Now to get this button to do something, on the right hand side I could give it some text. We won't do that right now by just typing under text. And to specify what happens when a user taps on this button, I'll go underneath transition control, and you see right now it says transition to scene. Now instead of transitioning to a scene, what we're going to do is simply end the experience. So when a user taps on this button, it'll end the experience. Now to test this experience or view this experience on my phone, I'll drag this over so we have our phone back. If I'm logged into Metaverse on my phone and Metaverse Studio with the same username and password, I'm able to simply click Test on Device. So if I do that, you'll see that it'll open up my camera on my phone. There's my hand, and it says turn left. So we'll keep turning left, and then there's the X-Wing fighter hanging out in my dining room. And it says, hey Jonathan, isn't this cool? Now this is a 3D asset, so it's moving, it's spinning. Now if I wanted to manipulate it, I could drag it around the screen or spin it faster. Now what we're going to do is simply tap the button, and that'll end the experience. So that's how easy it is to build a one-scene experience. Now let's make this experience a little bit more sophisticated. We'll go back into the studio. So we said, hey username, isn't this cool? Now for this button, let's say, nah, I've seen better. And we'll add another button that says, this is awesome. Now let's add a new component. So we go up to Add New, click Add New. And as I said earlier, experiences are made up of scenes, which are visual elements, and blocks, which execute code or logic between scenes. Now the scene that we've been using is a character scene, so it's simply a character with a speech bubble and various actions. We could add a text input scene, so we could ask a student to enter in a short answer to a question. We have things like give item scene, request item scene, so you could have an experience that says, here's a digital key, and that key is deposited into my inventory on my profile, and I'm able to then use that key, for instance, in another experience. So if I had a key, maybe an experience will ask for the key in order to unlock a treasure chest. We have web view scenes, so you can embed any website into an experience. Camera scenes, which will open up the camera on a user's phone or tablet. We have YouTube scene, which will embed video in an experience, and then 360 video and 360 photo. Now, 360 video can be displayed in Google Cardboard or simply enjoyed just on the phone. Now for our experience, we're going to add a camera scene. So I'll click to add a camera scene, and I like to drag them down so it flows in a linear pattern. Now let's link these two scenes together. So to link them, I simply click on the button. So I'll click on Now I've Seen Better, and on the right hand side under Transition Control, we'll say Transition to Scene, and we'll click on the finger and then click the scene. So you can see we've created this line. If I hover over the arrow, it'll highlight which particular scene that is transitioning to. So you can imagine a scene transitioning to various other scenes, sort of creating a logic or decision tree or a choose your own adventure story. Now this one, Now I've Seen Better, will transition to the camera scene. And this is awesome. We'll click on that, and we'll simply end the experience if they were to tap This is awesome. Now let's go back to our camera scene. We'll click camera scene, and we can configure various settings for the camera scene on the right hand side. In this experience, we're going to be taking a selfie, so we'll keep front facing camera. And for photo and video, we'll specify that we only want photo. Now if I wanted to, I could click create a frame, and this would create a Snapchat style filter overlay over the image. So if I were to click this character right here, I could position it, make it larger, spin it around, rotate it, and create a overlay. We won't be doing that in this experience. We'll go back. And we're going to be adding a new component. So we'll go to Add New, and in this time we're going to be adding a block. Various blocks are displayed on the left-hand side underneath scenes. So we have blocks that deal with the camera. We have blocks that deal with inventory, so you can check if a user has a particular item. You can award them a particular item. We have blocks that deal with leaderboards. You have an experience that is a quiz, and if a student gets a question wrong, it could decrement a leaderboard, and if they get it right, they could increment the leaderboard. Now I'm not going to go over all of these blocks right now. The block we're going to be using is part of Google Vision, and this is what's known as the Google Vision API. What these blocks essentially do is they check for emotions or objects in an image. So when we take an image, take a photo, that image is uploaded to Google, and Google will check for various things. So you can say, is this an image of an animal? Is the person sad? Or is this a particular object? So you could say, take a photo of a camel, for instance. In this experience, we're going to be using the is happy block, so I'll click on that and then drag it down next to scene 2. Again, these components don't have to be organized like this. They could be arranged however you like on the storyboard. This is just how I like to arrange my components. On scene 2, we will, on the right-hand side, again, transition to the block. And now this is happy block says, if a person is happy, transition to a particular scene, and if a person is not happy, transition to a particular scene. So go to Add New again, and we will be adding 2 new scenes, 2 character scenes. And I'll drag this down over here and put this one above. Now the top scene will be the happy scene. So if Google recognizes that I'm smiling in the image, I'll transition to scene 3, and we'll add dialogue and say, yay, smiley face. Add an action, and we will end the experience here. Now if I'm not smiling, let's say, that doesn't look like a smile to me. And we'll add an action here that says, try again. And instead of ending the experience, let's go back to the camera scene and allow them to take another photo. Now let's change these characters so we know which scene we land on visually. So we'll click on the X Fighter, and instead of an X Fighter, let's go to Google Poly again. And let's use this eagle. And for scene 3, let's use this penguin. So if Google's able to register that I am smiling, we'll transition to a penguin. And if I'm not smiling, we'll transition to an eagle. I'll go back to is happy, link this together. And that's it. We've finished our experience. Now, this experience took us, maybe 6 minutes or so. This could be done much faster. And this experience, as trivial it is very complex. We have a 3D object in augmented reality. We open up the camera on a user's phone, and then we send the image that we take to Google to check if I'm smiling in that particular photo. Now this experience took us no time at all. If you were a developer, you'd have a challenge building something like this. Now let's open up Metaverse on my phone and see what this looks like. Now last time we saw test on device. Now each of these experiences also has a unique link and a QR code that will open the experience. I'm able to paste this link in an email or on Facebook, and if someone has Metaverse installed, they're able to open up this experience right away. Now on the phone, on the app, you can see that at the top it says scan code. So if I tap on that, it'll open up a QR code scanner on my phone, and it'll instantly open up this experience when I scan the QR code. Now we've had a lot of teachers use this QR code by projecting it in class and telling their students to scan the QR code in order to launch the particular experience for that lesson that they're covering. Now I'll tap on my experience, and it'll open again, tell me to turn left. There's our X Fighter, And this time I'll say, no, I've seen better. It'll open up the camera on my phone. In this case, I won't smile. And click next. And what this is doing right now is it's sending this image to Google Cloud. And it says, that doesn't look like a smile to me. I'll try again. And take a smiling photo. And we get the penguin. So it was able to recognize that I was smiling in that particular photo. I'll end the experience. As you can see, that was really cool. We used Google Vision to detect if I was smiling. If we wanted to make this experience more complex, we could add various new scenes, various blocks. We could customize each of these scenes. So if I were to click scene 1 off of the components, so if I click it in the space that's not the image, the buttons, or the dialogue, so I'll click right here, I can configure my button format. So I could say I want them to be next to each other, I want them to be circles. I could specify the color, so I could change the color of all of these. Now I could also add a timer or add various backgrounds. So I could say, hey, you know what, I don't want this to be an augmented reality. I want this to simply be a black image with this 3D asset floating in space. There is almost limitless potential of Metaverse. By combining various scenes, blocks, and with these custom features, you're able to create all sorts of engaging learning experiences for your students. We've had teachers create scavenger hunts, quizzes, breakout experiences, and I've even had students build these experiences for themselves. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned a lot. If you have any questions, please comment below.